The attic smelled of cedar and dust, the kind of air that clung to clothes and whispered of forgotten summers. Anna pushed aside boxes of holiday decorations and stacked magazines until she uncovered a wooden chest, its brass hinges tarnished but sturdy. She hadn't meant to linger. She was helping her grandmother downsize the old family home, preparing it for sale. But something about the chest invited her closer, as though it had waited decades for her hands. When she opened it, she found linens folded in neat stacks, photo albums heavy with fading smiles, and at the very bottom, a thin leather folder tied with ribbon. Inside were pages of sheet music. The notes danced across the staves with confident strokes, yet the title at the top stopped her breath. The Song That Never Faded. There was no composer's name, only the date June 1958. Anna carried the folder downstairs. Her grandmother, Margaret, sat at the kitchen table sipping tea, her silver hair pinned back in its usual bun. The afternoon light slanted across her lined face. "Grandma," Anna said, laying the pages gently before her. "What is this?" Margaret's eyes widened. For a moment, she looked decades younger, the years falling away. Her fingers hovered above the sheets but didn't touch. "I thought these were gone," she whispered. "You know this song?" Her grandmother nodded slowly. "I wrote it when I was 17. Anna blinked. "You? But you never told me you wrote music." Margaret smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and sorrow. "Because it was never sung. Not once. It was meant for a voice I never had the courage to use." The melody seemed to shimmer on the page as if alive. Anna hummed a few notes, and the sound drifted into the quiet kitchen. Margaret closed her eyes. "Yes," she murmured. "That's how it begins. I remember every line." "Why didn't you play it? Why didn't you show anyone?" Anna asked. Margaret's hand trembled on the teacup. "Because life asked me to choose other things. Work, family, survival. I told myself the song would fade away, but it never did. Not in here." She touched her chest. Anna's curiosity burned. "Then maybe it's time someone sings it." Margaret looked at her granddaughter, eyes moist. "If you do, it will no longer be mine alone. It will be ours." The old clock on the wall chimed softly, echoing the weight of the moment. Anna felt as though the house itself leaned in to listen. The song that had slept for 65 years had chosen now to wake. And dear listener, before we follow this melody back through decades of silence, take a moment, subscribe and ring the bell to join us here at Years Ago Stories. Because sometimes the voices of the past are waiting for you to sing them back to life. They moved to the living room where the upright piano still stood against the wall, its lacquer dulled by time. Family snapshots crowded the top graduations. Birthdays, a faded wedding photo where Margaret's veil floated like mist. Anna set the leather folder on the closed lid and waited. She had learned that with her grandmother, silence was not emptiness. It was the space where memory arranged itself. "I wrote it in June," Margaret said at last, touching the folder's ribbon. "A heat wave. I practiced with the windows open to catch a breeze. The neighbor boys shouted baseball scores down the alley. Your great-grandmother banged pots and said the world wouldn't stop turning for my little song." "Did anyone hear it?" Anna asked. "I played it once for a friend," she said. "Helen. She was bold where I was careful. She said the chorus lifted like a kite and begged me to sing it at the church social." Margaret's smile was quick and rueful. "I promised I would. I did not." Anna sat at the bench and, without lifting the fallboard, traced imaginary keys on the wood. "What stopped you?" "Life, mostly." Margaret's eyes narrowed with an old light. But there was also an audition, a poster in the bakery window, Talents of the County Fair. The prize was a tiny scholarship for lessons in the city. I copied the address, hid it in my shoe, and told no one. Anna felt the room tip toward the past. "Did you go?" "I made it to the bus," Margaret said, voice turning airy, as if speaking from a high ledge. I carried my sheet music in a paper pouch. The bus door folded open like a mouth. I put one foot on the step, then I saw your great-grandmother coming up the block with a list of errands and a heart full of opinions. I stepped back. The driver called, "Miss?" and I shook my head. I walked home with my song. She reached for the folder, untied the ribbon, and slid the top page free. Anna leaned in. A first verse with confident slurs, a chorus marked dolce, but not timid, a bridge scratched out and rewritten in surer hand. In the corner, a smudge the ghost of a thumbprint in graphite. "You kept it anyway," Anna said. "I hid it," Margaret corrected gently, "between the piano and the wall. Your grandfather found it once when we were newly married. He said it was pretty and asked me to sing it. I told him later. Later never came. Why not?" Margaret lifted another page. The date at the top read the 18th of June, 1958. Beneath it, "Key change for the last chorus, sing as if the window is open. Because by August I had a ring," she said softly, turning her wedding band with her other hand. "And by winter I had a job at the dress shop, then babies, then bills. Sometimes the window was open, but not for me." Anna exhaled. The piano seemed to absorb the words, its silent strings humming in sympathy. "I always thought music was a hobby for you." "It is possible," Margaret said, "to bury something tender under something good. Family is good. Work is good. But the tender thing learns to breathe through the cracks." She took a slow breath. "There is another reason, too. One I have not told." She reached into the folder and found a small photograph wedged between pages, glossy, black and white, the edges scalloped. A young man leaned on the piano, tie loosened, sleeves rolled past the elbow. A clarinet rested in his hand. He was looking not at the camera, but at the girl seated at the keys. Margaret, 17 cheeks lit with the kind of audacity you only get once. "Who is he?" Anna asked, though she suspected. "Peter Dawson," Margaret answered. "He played clarinet at the American Legion dances. He listened to my song the second time, when we were alone in the parish hall. He said the bridge needed a breath and that the title was brave. He was leaving for college on a band scholarship in August. He asked me to come hear him play in the city. And you didn't." "I did," Margaret said, surprising her. "Once." She turned the photo over. On the back, "July 12 after practice. We dared the future. We sat on the back steps. He said the song felt like a map of a place we both knew but had never visited. I said maps were for people who could afford tickets." Her smile tilted. "He promised to write. He did. 3 letters. Then he wrote that someone in his program had a voice like a silver bell, and he kept mentioning her name. I learned the shape of letting go." The clock in the hall clicked forward, a small domestic sound that somehow made the room ache. "So the song became," Anna began. "A private country," Margaret finished. "A place I went when the dishes were done and the house was quiet. I hummed the melody under my breath while hemming dresses. I changed the key in my head when the baby cried at night. When your grandfather's hours at the plant were cut, I folded the pages and tucked them deeper. Some people forget their dreams. Mine remembered me. It never faded. It just waited." Anna lifted the fallboard, exposing the ivory. The piano had held its tune remarkably well. When she pressed a key, the note rang with an honest, slightly dusty voice. She placed the sheet on the rack and tried the opening measures. The melody stepped forward shyly, then found its feet, then at the chorus raised its chin. Margaret's shoulders trembled. "Yes," she whispered. "There. Let it turn the corner." Anna felt the music pull like a tide, but halfway through the bridge, pencil scratching swerved into a gap, a line left blank. A measure bracketed but never filled. "Grandma," she said, pointing. "It stops." "It always stopped there," Margaret admitted. "I could not write the answer I hadn't lived." "What answer?" "The part where the girl sings, as if the window is open." and it's her turn to choose. Anna continued anyway, sitting in the gap for a count that felt like a lifetime, letting the choir of unsung notes hang until the room held its breath. From the kitchen, the kettle clicked as if remembering its duty. From the porch, a car passed slowly, its tires sighing on gravel. When she returned to the final chorus, she sang the melody softly, no words, just a vowel that warmed as it rose. Margaret's eyes shone. "That's what the title meant," she murmured. "Not that the song refused to fade. That I refused." Anna lowered her hands to her lap. "Then let's finish it now." Her grandmother pressed her fingers to her lips, swallowed, and nodded. "We will," she said. "But not alone." "Who else?" Anna asked. "The family," Margaret replied, closing the folder with decisive care. "If it brings us together at all, it should bring us together now. Your mother, your uncle, Helen, if I can find her. Perhaps even—" She touched the photograph. "No, not Peter. That was another life. But the people who carried this one." She slid the folder back toward Anna. "Tomorrow, we'll invite them. Tonight, we remember. Play it again." Anna started from the top. As the first phrase unfurled, Margaret hummed along a second, older voice, laying a harmony the page had never seen. The kind of harmony life teaches you when you think you have no more music left. The house leaned in, listening. The song that had never been sung was already learning its chorus. The next morning, Margaret insisted on making breakfast. She moved slowly, her hands careful on the skillet, but Anna knew better than to argue. Some rituals were not about food, they were about memory. As eggs hissed and toast browned, Margaret began to hum. Not the whole song, only a fragment, 4 notes tumbling gently like marbles across the counter. Anna froze mid-bite. "That's the bridge," she whispered. Margaret nodded. "I hummed it while I worked at the dress shop, while I rocked your mother to sleep, while I walked home after long days when the world seemed smaller than my dreams. I thought I was burying it. I was only watering it." After breakfast, Anna asked her grandmother to tell her everything. Margaret fetched an old tin box from the pantry, one that had once held biscuits but now carried postcards, ticket stubs, and folded slips of paper. She set it between them. 1958 was not a year for girls to shout, she said, pulling out a program from the county fair. It was a year for girls to be polite, to be pretty, to be practical. The boys played ball, the girls baked pies, and the few of us who scribbled music in notebooks learned to smile as if it were a harmless hobby. She showed Anna a clipping. County Fair talent show winners announced. A boy with a harmonica beamed from the page. Margaret's name was not listed. "I never auditioned," she admitted. "I told myself the timing was wrong. The house needed me. The errands were too many. But truthfully, I was afraid of hearing my song aloud and learning it wasn't good enough." From the box, she lifted a letter, edges frayed. "Peter wrote this after his first semester." She passed it to Anna. The ink had faded but was still legible. "Maggie, I played your song on clarinet when no one was around. The melody curved like your handwriting. It stayed with me after every rehearsal. One day, you should let it be heard. One day, you should stand where people must listen." Anna looked up. "He believed in you." Margaret's eyes softened. "Yes. But belief from others is a candle. If you don't strike your own match, the dark will swallow it." That afternoon, Anna sat at the piano again. The melody felt more familiar now, as if the house itself remembered each note. Margaret closed her eyes and saw it. The parish hall, July heat pressing through stained glass windows. Peter leaning against the upright piano, clarinet case open beside him. He had said, "The world is wider than this town, Maggie. Let your song out." And she had shaken her head, smoothing her skirt, saying, "The world was wide enough, right here." "I thought love would be safer than risk," she admitted to Anna. "But love is risk. I only learned that later." Anna pointed again to the blank measure. "Why did you stop here?" Margaret hesitated. Because that was the place where the girl had to choose. Would she step onto the bus, or step back to the sidewalk? I had lived the second choice. I could not write the first. The silence between them thickened, heavy but not cruel. Anna felt the ache of what might have been and the tenderness of what was. As the day faded, Margaret placed the sheets carefully back in the folder. I wanted to forget, but the song never let me. Perhaps it was waiting for you. Anna felt a strange certainty. Then maybe the blank measure isn't yours to write. Maybe it's mine. Her grandmother's eyes shone with tears that were not only sorrow but release. Then Anna, sing it as if the window is open. Sing the choice I never made. By Sunday afternoon, the dining table was crowded with familiar faces. Anna had insisted that the family gather, though she kept the reason vague. Her mother, Ellen, arrived with a casserole. Uncle David carried a bottle of cider. They laughed, hugged, and settled in, the house alive with voices that had once seemed too far apart. When dessert plates were cleared, Anna placed the folder of sheet music on the table. The room quieted. Margaret sat straighter, her hands folded in her lap, eyes fixed on the ribbon. "What's this?" Ellen asked. "Something I wrote when I was 17, Margaret said softly. "A song. I thought it was lost, but Anna found it." Ellen's eyebrows shot up. "You wrote music? Mom, you never told us." "Because I never shared it," Margaret admitted. "I thought, what use is a song unsung? Better to tuck it away than live with the ache." Uncle David leaned forward. "But you kept it. All these years." Ellen's voice wavered between disbelief and hurt. "You mean the lullabies you sang to us were yours?" Margaret nodded. "Pieces of this, the gentler parts. I never sang the whole because I didn't know how it ended." Ellen pressed a hand to her forehead. "All this time, we thought you gave up everything for us, and now we learn you kept a secret dream? Why didn't you trust us to know?" Tears glimmered in Margaret's eyes. "Because I was ashamed. I told myself family was enough, but in the dark, I still longed for more. I thought if I spoke it aloud, it would sound like regret, and I never wanted you to think you weren't enough." David's voice softened. "Mom, we never asked you not to dream. We just didn't know." Anna slid the sheets toward her mother and uncle. "Read it. Hear it. It isn't a betrayal. It's a gift. She wrote it for herself, but it belongs to us now, too." Ellen scanned the notes, her expression shifting from confusion to awe. "It's beautiful," she whispered. David traced the blank measure. "But here, why did you stop?" Margaret answered quietly. "Because that bar required a choice I didn't make, to step onto the bus, to risk being seen. I chose safety. I chose silence. And so the song stayed unfinished." The room grew still. Ellen reached for her mother's hand. "You don't have to hide anymore. If this song waited 60 years, maybe it was waiting for us to carry it with you." David nodded. "We finish it together, not to erase your choice, but to honor it, to show it never truly faded." Margaret's tears spilled freely. She looked from her daughter to her son, then to Anna. "For so long I feared telling you would break us. But maybe it is what will bind us tighter." Anna smiled. "Exactly. The blank measure isn't a failure. It's an invitation for all of us." Ellen closed the folder gently. "Then let's not wait any longer. Let's gather around the piano tonight. Mom, you hum the melody. Anna, play the keys. David, you've still got that guitar in the garage. We'll fill the silence together." Margaret inhaled deeply, her shoulders releasing decades of weight. "Yes," she said. "Tonight, the song begins again." The family exchanged glances of awe and anticipation. For the first time in years, they felt not divided by silence, but united by the promise of sound. That evening, the Whitlow family gathered in the living room. The upright piano waited, its keys gleaming faintly under the lamp. The folder of sheet music rested on the rack, the title staring back at them, "The Song That Never Faded." Ellen crossed her arms, nervous. "It feels strange," she admitted, "like trespassing into a diary." Margaret shook her head. Not trespassing, inviting. This song has been lonely long enough. Anna took her seat at the piano bench. She pressed a key, and the note rose, trembling but true. David returned with his old guitar, strings retuned, calluses long gone but spirit intact. He gave a tentative strum, the sound warm and rough-edged. They began softly, Anna reading the notes, Margaret humming the melody an octave lower, David finding chords to weave underneath. Ellen, hesitant at first, joined with a voice she hadn't used outside the shower in years. The living room filled with sound fragile, imperfect, but alive. When they reached the blank measure, the room faltered. Anna's hands hovered above the keys. Margaret's hum fell silent. David strummed a single chord, searching. Ellen whispered, "What do we do?" Anna inhaled, heart racing. "We write it. Now." She pressed a progression she had felt rather than read. The notes lifted upward, surprising yet inevitable, like a window opening on a spring day. David caught her cue and slid into harmony. Ellen sang a vowel that bent into words, "Still here, still ours." Margaret clutched her chest, tears streaking her cheeks. The measure was no longer empty. It was full with courage, with family, with the life she had lived. "That's it," she cried softly. "That's the ending I never dared." They pushed into the final chorus. Anna's playing grew confident. Ellen's voice steadied. David's guitar wrapped around them. Margaret hummed harmony until, trembling, she let her own voice rise. It was fragile, weathered by years, but it carried a depth that youth never could. The song soared, not perfect, but whole. When the last chord resolved, the room was silent except for the sound of their breathing. The air shimmered with something beyond music, an inheritance made audible. Ellen wiped her eyes. "I never knew you carried this." Margaret reached for her daughter's hand. "I thought if I told you, it would sound like regret. But now I see it was waiting for you too. All of you." David grinned through tears. "We didn't just finish your song, Mom. We made it ours." Anna closed the folder, heart pounding. The song never faded because it was never yours alone. It belonged to the family all along. They sat together in the glow of lamplight, instruments resting, voices spent. The house felt fuller than it had in years. Margaret leaned back, eyes half closed, whispering, "At last." Anna glanced at her mother and uncle. "We should record it, preserve it, let the rest of the family hear." Ellen nodded. "Yes, not as a performance, but as proof. Proof that dreams may sleep, but they don't die." David touched the guitar strings gently, letting them hum. Proof that silence can be broken. Margaret's smile deepened. And proof that love, like a song, never fades, only waits. The next morning dawned bright, as if the world itself wanted to honor the music that had finally filled the house the night before. Sunlight poured through the lace curtains, scattering patterns across the piano where the sheet music still rested. The folder lay open, its pages no longer a secret but a testimony. For the first time in 65 years, the song that never faded had been sung. Anna woke early. She padded softly down the hallway and found her grandmother already awake, seated in her favorite chair by the window. Margaret's hands cradled a cup of tea, but her eyes were fixed on the piano. The silence between them was gentle now, no longer heavy with what hadn't been said. "You heard it, didn't you?" Anna asked quietly, settling beside her. Margaret's smile trembled. "Not just with my ears, with my whole heart. When you all sang last night, it was as if time folded back and gave me a chance I thought I'd lost." Ellen entered with a notepad in hand. "I wrote down the lyrics we improvised. They weren't polished, but they felt true." She placed the notes on the coffee table. "Maybe we can refine them together. Make it official." David followed, guitar slung over his shoulder, though he hadn't played in years until yesterday. "I agree. A song isn't alive until it's shared. Last night proved that." Anna glanced at her grandmother. Do you want us to record it? Preserve it so no one forgets? Margaret sipped her tea, her gaze soft. Yes. But more than a recording, I want it sung. At gatherings, at birthdays, at Christmas. I want it to be more than paper and ink. I want it to be breath. That afternoon, they set up an old tape recorder David had dug out of the attic. Ellen held the microphone awkwardly. Anna sat at the piano, and David tuned the guitar as best he could. Margaret stood behind them, humming to guide the melody. When they began, their voices were shaky, laughter bubbling when they missed a note. But soon, the melody settled into them, carrying them along like a current. The missing measure no longer felt like a wound. It was a seam now, stitching generations together. When the final chord rang, Margaret pressed a hand to her lips. At last, she whispered, it has a home. Later that evening, when the others had drifted into the kitchen, Margaret beckoned Anna closer. Her voice was low. I need to tell you something, before time steals the chance. I always thought my silence was a kindness, that burying the song meant protecting my family from regret. But the truth is, I was protecting myself. I was afraid of failing. Anna took her grandmother's hand. You didn't fail. The song lived. It waited for you and for us. Margaret's eyes brimmed. Yes, but it lived in shadows. Promise me, Anna, don't let your voice live in shadows. Whatever song you carry, let it be heard. Anna nodded, her throat thick. I promise. That weekend, extended family came by. Cousins, nieces, nephews filled the house with chatter. When Anna placed the sheet music on the piano and announced, "This is Grandma's song," the room fell silent. She played. Ellen sang harmony. David strummed along. Children swayed, wide-eyed. By the final chorus, voices from every corner joined in, hesitant at first, then stronger. The house pulsed with sound, with memory, with a joy too long delayed. Margaret sat in her chair, tears streaking her cheeks, lips moving silently with every word. In that moment, she wasn't just a grandmother. She was the 17-year-old girl at the bus stop again, holding a folder of sheet music, daring the world to listen. That night, after everyone left, Anna found her grandmother at the piano. Margaret's fingers hovered over the keys. She played the opening line, her voice quavering but sure. This is the last time I will sing it, she said softly. Not because it fades, but because it no longer needs me. It has you now. Anna's heart ached, but she understood. We'll keep it alive, Grandma, I swear. Margaret kissed her forehead. Then the song has done its work. Days later, Anna listened to the tape they had made. The sound was raw, imperfect, full of laughter and tears, but it was alive. She realized the lesson wasn't just about finishing a song, it was about finishing the courage to share it. Dreams, even when buried, do not disappear. They wait sometimes for years, sometimes for generations, until someone dares to open the window and let them breathe. The song had not faded because love had not faded. Memory had not faded. The family, though marked by silence, had chosen sound again. And so, dear listener, let me turn the question to you. What unfinished song sleeps in your family? What dream was tucked away, waiting for someone brave enough to give it voice? Could it be you? Share your family's hidden song or story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Years Ago Stories and ring the bell, because some songs may fade from the page, but never from the heart. The next story we tell might echo your own.